What's up, everybody? Welcome into Group Chat Football Live. I'm Peter Ariz alongside D Money, and we have some breaking news this morning on the coaching front as Virginia Tech has made their hire at offensive coordinator. Philip Montgomery, former Tulsa head coach, has bounced around the last couple of years, was at Auburn in 2023, was also the co-offensive coordinator for the Birmingham Stallions in the UFL. But this is a guy going back to his time at Houston, at Baylor, who has a long list of developing and helping develop quarterbacks that you guys would know the names of. We'll go through it here in just a second. But looking at this pairing with Kyron Drones, right? It's a big year for Brent Pry and his coaching tenure there at Virginia Tech. So it's a lot's going into this year. Kyron Drones stays at Virginia Tech. Big time talent at QB who just hasn't been able to put it together in terms of consistency. Could this hire be an answer towards that?
I think this is all about Drones. And if you look at the hire, it's a combination of a safe hire and a bold hire, in that Montgomery's been around forever, over 20 years of college experience, 8 years as a head coach. He was the offensive coordinator in the SEC very recently with Auburn, but of course Baylor, I think, is the experience that you're trying to recreate here with Virginia Tech. Now, look, Tulsa was not all bad. He had a 10-win season at Tulsa in 2016 as a head coach, going 10-3. But again, I think Baylor is really what you're looking for. Say, can we get Kyron Drones performing like an RG3, like a Bryce Petty, guys like that, Nick Florence, guys that in that offense in particular really, really flourish. When you look at the Baylor offenses, they're all about quarterbacks with big tools that maybe necessarily weren't elite, consistently elite processors, and they had simple reads. So before we get into this offense, quick quote from Brent Pry. He said, Philip Montgomery is one of the most respected offensive minds in college football. His ability to develop quarterbacks and build explosive offenses will be instrumental in our continued growth as a program. Philip's experience as both a head coach and a coordinator will help us maximize our talent and put our players in the best position to succeed. Of course, Tyler Bowen, the offensive coordinator previously, went to get an offensive line coaching job at Ohio State. So it's going to be a major, major shift. But when you look at this old Baylor offense, the Montgomery offense that he was very instrumental in creating with Art Briles, the most interesting thing is that vertical passing game, right? They had a good running game, a lot of gap schemes, a lot of pulls, power, dart, just a lot of gap scheme runs where you had offensive linemen on the move. But really, to me, when I think of this Baylor offense, I think of the space, which is unusual. You have wide receivers way out there to space out the defense. And then these vertical choice routes. A lot of times you think of choice routes, you think of the New England Patriots slot receivers that, Wes Welker, I can go this way and go that way. Brady kind of reads them. With Baylor, they had that same concept, but for deeper routes, which is why their deep passing game was so deadly. And quite frankly, why it struggled to translate a little bit to the pros with the Bryce Pettys of the world. So basically what you see is you'll tag a receiver. This is where the ball's going. You've spaced everything out. All the other receiving options are meant to free that receiver open and occupy defenders. And then that receiver has the option of reading the cornerback or safety and running to space, basically. So he has an option down the field of where he's going to be able to find space. And the quarterback's looking at the whole way and uses their arm strength. And Baylor had very toolsy quarterbacks, not unlike Kyron Drones, to get the ball down the field and make those explosive plays. So that combined with a gap scheme, power running game, I think that's what you're going to be looking for Virginia Tech with Philip Montgomery.
Now, looking at what Drones has around him, it hasn't been the best offseason, I would say, for Virginia Tech. Now, you lose a Bashal Tutin to the NFL, obviously. That there's no shame in that, right? He's going on, and expect him to be a really good pro. Had a really good season, impressive player, just at the Senior Bowl there. And it's not just that loss, though. You lose a couple top offensive linemen, Xavier Chaplin being one of them at tackle, and Braylon Moore going to LSU at guard. So you bring in some guys from West Virginia to try to replace that, but to me, that is a bigger situation to monitor than the offensive coordinator, because got to get some talent around him, not only blocking up front, but the skill positions on the outside.
Yeah, and look, you mentioned the line. Chaplin's a really, really talented tackle. I think an NFL type tackle, big, very hard to replace that kind of body type. You lose Braylon Moore inside, tough guy. I mean, both those guys are going to the SEC. Braylon Moore going to LSU, Chaplin going to Auburn. So that tells you a lot about the talent of those guys going to those kind of programs. To one of the probably more underrated players in the nation last year. It was such a deep running back class. You forgot how good he was. And then wide receiver, DeQuan Felton, Jalen Lane, both of those guys invited to the combine. You expect to see them potentially get drafted. These are two receivers that you lose. So a lot there, even if you can keep Drones healthy, which was a major problem last season, that is going to be a challenge. You look at Virginia Tech's offense last year. It wasn't, horrible, right? It wasn't one of the worst offenses we've seen. In the 60s and 50s in most categories, 52 in scoring offense. In terms of yards per play, you're in the 60s. So it was not a terrible offense by any stretch, but you just lost a lot of talent that you have to replace, which is why I think you're going more towards this unique scheme. You did add some athleticism at receiver, a guy like Donovan Green from Wake Forest. We
did a video about that. Yeah,
really talented guy. So that'll help. But I think you're banking on this scheme taking teams in the ACC by surprise. It's going to be up-tempo. It is going to be big play oriented. And again, quarterbacks like Drones, who have just tremendous tools, can throw downfield, simplifies the game for them and allows them to see. I think of a guy like Bryce Petty, right? Bryce Petty, good body, good athleticism, great arm, never really put it together. Never put it together in the pros because he wasn't like a full field reader like that. But the system was so easy. It gave him success. I think Drones is probably a better processor than Petty, but certainly a big physically talented guy. And this is going to make his life easier with less talent on paper around him.
Yeah, we're big fans of the Donovan Green pickup. We did a video about that few weeks back, maybe a month plus ago. But big body receiver, a lot of experience with playing college football since 2019. The injuries have been something that have held him back a bit. But if he's healthy, man, really like that pickup for them. And I would look to see if they add another one or two guys, maybe a tight end with some receiving ability as well, just to get some weapons around Drones here.
Yeah, and it's some more speed, right? So Baylor was all about the track athletes, right? Those guys that can get down the field. Maybe you pick up just a pure speedster for this offense in that spring portal window. But look, this is a team that's going to run the ball and pass. You look at Tulsa. They were the first FBS team to have a 3,000-yard passer, 2,000-yard rushers, and 2,000-yard receivers. That was in 2016 when Tulsa won 10 games. Montgomery was riding high. So this is not just going to be a passing focus offense. You will see the running game continue to be important. So we'll see what happens with, who's going to step up. It's going to be Terran Store, who's going to replace Tootin. But this is going to be a balanced offense, but a unique offense. And you're going to know right when you see those receivers line up, and it just looks different than what you're used to seeing. A lot of H-back, in terms of not so much inline tight end, but more lead blockers for some of those power runs. So it'll be an interesting offense to watch.
Keep it locked here on Group Chat Football Live as we keep you all covered with the latest in college football news across the country, transfer portal, recruiting news, coaching movement, just like this. Philip Montgomery, the new offensive coordinator at Virginia Tech, excited to see what he does this year. Hokies fans, if you'd like coverage like this, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you all for watching today.